Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the PCS for the summer split of 2022. I'm Asterix. I'm joined by Nightstar yet again here on this glorious night, opening up the new week of week number 4 as well. A quick reminder for you that PCS is sponsored by CDBC Bank, and we want to thank Riot Games, Carry Live, and Garena for the league operation and the full production of the show. That's how we keep on running here at Nightstar. It's good to see you again, ahead of what should be another highlight week, because let's be real, last week was just filled with, I'm not going to say tragedies, but amazing upsets by our bottom teams especially.
Last week was pretty bonkers. It was quite the end to the first round robin as we dive into the second round robin. At the very least, we don't have any winless teams, right?
Yeah.
Because in previous splits, it felt like it was so divided, where it was very top heavy, and even the middle pack just seemed so far behind the rest of the squad. And then you have the very bottom of the table, which didn't even have a chance to catch up to the middle of the pack. Much less make a dent against the top teams.
But as you were saying, now because we don't have any winless teams, and Meta Falcon Team Impunity, the ones that are hanging back a little bit, are in a little bit of trouble. So, we'll be talking a lot today about how Sem9 Jewish team can make their run through, especially since we start with one of them. But, last week as well, I feel like we saw the burst out of so many, star players, right? I think you and I especially were talking about a lot of top laners. We know the one we're talking about, right? Like, why SKM has come into the league, and I know shortly he'll be coming up on our screens. Not only have Frank Esports looked a lot better and a lot more challenging, but I feel like their identity is built up because of one man at the top side, now giving them a fresh set of legs.
Yeah, he's been absolutely bopping everyone up in the top side when it comes to isolated 1v1s. Yes, there was when it comes to playing with him in 5v5, sometimes that can be a little bit of a struggle. Frankies were still trying to figure out how to do so, but I think a lot of teams still have some growing pains. So Frankie Sports aren't the only ones who are still trying to clean things up, and in the second half of the season we'll hopefully see those issues really get ironed out as we start heading and maybe look at the playoff picture.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting close, right? As you said, the halfway point's already reached. It does seem to me that we're at a point where, we've already kind of seen these teams and the dynamics that brought together. And what I mean when I say that, Nightstar, is the fact that, we have seen teams change around rosters, so many times. I'm looking at Impunity especially. So we are kind of getting those working dynamics for, I guess, some of our struggling to mid-tier teams and what they want to do running forward as we start looking, as you said, towards that playoff picture.
Yeah, and we can see here, it's been very, very competitive. Top 5 of the standings, where everyone's gotten to take a bite out of everyone else. Well, I would say top 6, right? Because they're all with winning records. And even then, Impunity, Meta Falcon team, if they can just figure out a couple things, they can also insert their names up into that middle of the pack. It's not that far out of the realm of them being able to find an upset or two. We've seen them be competitive. It's just about being able to pull up an entire game's worth of gameplay, whereas they have fallen short a couple of times. And I'm especially looking at you, Impunity, because it's still a musical chairs organization at the moment.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of issues on this team. They're obviously, as I was saying before, shifting around the roster to see what works, as we have another one today. But the recent losses against Beyond, JT, and PSG is fair enough. But let's remember, I think, wasn't it the Sem9 game in week 2? We're like, hang on a minute, what's going on? Even, at the end of last week, the loss to Meta Falcon team really hurt them. Now on a 3-loss streak as well. So, Impunity with all that experience, once again, those players are seeing a bit of reality, which seems a bit like deja vu with, I feel like people like Alex and Apex and Annex, being through that before. But Impunity is not the only ones we want to talk about. Of course, going through, we need to look at our player of the week. We were talking about him before here, Nightstar. YSKM for week number 3 gets our highlight. And I remember you and I casting the Camille game. It was so good to watch, really clean mechanics out of this top lane superstar building his name on Frank Esports.
Yeah, when he gets these big ticket carries in that top lane, he's been really, really performing.
Yeah.
We get to see this game. This was the game that we got to cast YSKM really popping off with the Camille pick. He gets the solo kill in Taco in lane. That really just sent things careening for MFT as they really struggled to figure out how to really execute afterwards. And he looked like he was just having a blast, right? He even flashed into a wall after the 1v1 kill, laughs it off, and right there we just saw he just goes ahead, stopwatches, flashing.
Statue.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to showcase, man. Got to showcase. Like, another one of the solo kills. I feel like we even saw one earlier as a double solo kill game for YSKM. But, you know, as you said, the attitude's better from him. But I think even overall, Frank Esports, the attitude just looks so positive. He's changed up quite a lot, and the dynamic now working when Pretender was already developing into this kind of fearful mid laner with a wide champion pool. And we remember that, you know, Bot was already in a winning position considering that was the focus for Frank Esports before. And now that you have this top lane dynamic, you know, the attitude couldn't be better. And that's why I think Frank Esports have just become one of the most exciting teams in the PCS, despite being tied for 5th at the moment. Like, YSKM brings that, and it could not be more deserving for our week number 3 MVP.
Yeah, and they've really challenged a lot of the top teams as well. They haven't been able to quite be clean enough to finish them off. As we get to take a look at today's matches, certainly looking at that DCG J team matchup as the big highlight here for today, because those are the 2 most competitive squads in the standings. However, definitely don't sleep on MFT versus Megabank Beyond Gaming, because Megabank Beyond Gaming have also been a little bit of a mixed bag when it comes to their in-game performance.
Yeah, I feel like Beyond, as you said, you know, a little bit shaky. Trying out Liang in the last game, they're bringing back Lakai. We'll have to see if it's going to be good enough. At least we start with Frank Esports versus Sem9, and Nightstar, I hope we haven't been hyping up Frank Esports and then Sem9 come rolling at them.
Yeah.
Because I guess we have to be a little bit more realistic with Sem9 now. The game you and I cast against Dewey's team, Sem9 set the record for the quickest game of the split. And not only that, we're clinical in playing it out. Now, they just took a loss to CWC Flying Oyster, but that's also kind of expected when we know that, you know, this team didn't even pick up a win for 25 games in a row. And I think losing to one of the top teams is excusable, but maybe Frank Esports is a threshold below that is reasonable to assume that Sem9 could have a chance here.
Yeah, it's certainly reasonable, especially since Frank Esports have struggled a little bit sometimes in just opening up the early game and then just clinically snowballing that lead. So that could be a possibility if they don't come out strong and really transition their leads very well. Sem9 could be offered the ability to find that one big team fight to slingshot them back into the game.
All right, we have to talk a little bit about that roster though, don't we? Because for Sem9, you know, we were talking about this a little bit coming into it, but seeing Shin flex between support mid, guess what? He's now playing AD in this game. So Shedudu, who is the flex of bot mid, is going back to mid here, Nightstar. Lazar is not playing. Like, I just love the musical chairs we're seeing as Caspiel, who has actually played bot this split and played against CWC Flying Oyster, is now support.
Well,
musical chairs.
I will correct you on that. It has been Caspiel, even though he's labeled as the AD carry position. He has just played, I believe, 3 games Nautilus. So he's been pretty much just playing the support role, and really it's mostly just been Ashin moving around the map, trying to fill in whatever role comes in the draft. I'm not sure if they're still trying to figure out where to plug him in, because his champion pool is relatively small, but maybe we'll see it exploited in the Champ Select as we get to take a look at Frank Esports now. YSKM, of course, player of the week. Big highlight. However, definitely don't sleep on the rest of this roster, because Hollow, Pretender, Eminem carries, they've continued to showcase strong performances, especially during the lane phase from this bottom lane in particular.
Yeah, that was the pure focus of Frank Esports in our previous splits. I feel like, Hollow, paying a bit of attention to YSKM, at least in the last game we cast as well. So, diversity in this roster is amazing. Pretender as well. We've seen some great Lissandra games out of him so far in this split. So kind of interested to see where we go for this, considering that, as we talked about before, for Frank Esports, some of those drafts look so fun. Like, we've seen Yone come through from him, the Ari, the Lissandra I just mentioned. It's exciting to see, but of course we have to look at the top side when we're highlighting our week number 3 player. Solo kills high, by the way, even from Sem9's top in what has been a largely winless team.
Yeah, and for the side of Sem9, No Name has been their strongest laner. Shidodo, of course, not really familiar with mid lane, so we don't really expect him to just pull out solo kills out of nowhere. And then, of course, in this bot lane, because they've been so driven by early picking the Seraphine, they're not really a bot lane duel that's expected to get a lot of bot lane priority or just 2v2 kills. It's a lot about scaling into some of these mid-game team fights. So No Name has just been the focal point of, if they want to try and find a kill in one of these lanes, that's where they will do it.
I just love already, though. We're targeting YSKM. Double ban here from Sem9 right off the drive towards that top lane. Just for our audience out there, a quick tidbit. Remember that in the LCK in the previous days, Nightstar mentioned this to me before. We had the Poppy Hexflash ban. However, 12-12 here in the PCS, that's not going to come through, so Hexflash is still available, which means Poppy is still going to be one of those high priorities where a lot of junglers around the world are saying this is a top-tier pick.
Yes.
I have to see if it comes out in this draft, because already we don't have any junglers banned. It's still towards the top side. It's that Seraphine that you mentioned for Sem9 being crucial. It's a triple top side ban against Frank Esports to round it out.
Yeah, Sem9, they've really identified the big carry threat over on the side of Frank Esports. It is that top half of the map. And now for Frank Esports, we'll see what that last ban ends up being. They've already taken away the Zeri, they've taken away the Seraphine. Now they go ahead and take away the Senna. So a lot of weak side picks in the Seraphine Senna will be denied away from Ashin. And then they also deny away the Zeri, which would be the potential flex if you were to send Shidodo back into that bottom lane, right? So Sem9, they go ahead, identify, hey, we're just going to full target YSKM. We ban 3 of his champs, and then we go ahead first pick the Jax, which has been YSKM's go-to champion when he's even looking to blind pick a champ.
It's amazing, like, to see this kind of priority put onto it. And looking at the new target of Frank Esports. Now, notice that with the 3 top lane bans, with the Jax taken away, YSKM still has something like the Gwen. Still 12-12, not 12-13, so still a big priority to be taken there. But the bottom lane for Frank Esports is where they go first, with a strong 2v2 that skips the ban phase, while Sem9 get their jungler in order, which also seems to be a priority plus.
Now we'll see if Sem9, they go ahead and pick an AD carry, because we haven't seen Ashin actually play an AD carry so far. So that's definitely a possible exploit that Frank Esports are looking to read. They go ahead, lock in the Nautilus, so nothing shown here as far as Ashin and Shidodo's picks. Whereas on the side of Frank Esports, you get a very strong 2v2. You know, if Ashin's going to be in that bottom lane, they are going to be a lane that can be very, very heavily punished. Now on this last pick, kind of expect Gnar to get locked in, has a pretty good matchup into the Jax through the lane phase, and of course offers a little bit more when it comes to these team fights, but it looks like they actually go ahead lock in the Kennen. So Kennen's a really interesting pick. Of course, the range, really annoying for the Jax to deal with, but after a certain point in time, you know, you get that counter strike, it nullifies a lot of the damage coming in from an AP threat like Kennen, and you also are able to dodge a lot of those autos. So I expect YSKM to know this matchup, since he is kind of the blind pick Jax player, but we'll see how the lane actually plays out.
I mean, I'm kind of excited for it, because I know that Jax can actually punish early. It can be pretty annoying for the Kennen until he has ult, so we'll watch that top lane with bated breath, because once again, when you started saying nah there, Nightstar, I was like, you know, anyone else, I'd say absolutely, high priority. But each and every time YSKM has avoided it, has gone towards things like the Jackson. When you quadruple ban / take away, YSKM's answer seems to once again be the this volatile little electric rat in the top side, which works nicely with what Frank Esports have started drafting here. I was going to ask you a little bit about what you expect here, because we've had double jungle ban come through. Excuse me, one jungle, one mid against Pretender. Hollow still has things like Diego, things like Jav and Zinzao. There's not a lot taken away from his pool.
Yeah, and here for the side of Frank Esports, I'm interested in what they're actually going to save counterpick for. You have the Zir available. I would certainly look to lock in a mid laner, whether it's the Zir or the Sylas, and just save counterpick for Hollow. Maybe find that big counterpick threat here to really try and lock down the Sem9 composition. The Viego, of course, offers good scaling, but it might not be enough early game if you really want to just hard punish whatever comes next here in this last phase for Sem9.
Yeah, so talking about the flex capabilities, now they show their hand though. We're going to find out who's actually taken the Nautilus, as Nico's going to be picked up. Bit of a rarity. Now, in B5 in the early days, when we had all these random lane swappings, like Cole playing top, jungle, mid, whatever, in their 0-16 split, Nico was something that was piloted into the AD role. So I'm kind of wondering if Sem9 plan to do this for their bottom lane, because again, they are like kind of wacky with these bottom three members and how they move around.
Yeah, I actually think this is a nice pick into the mid lane. You have the harassment against something like a Sylas, and then you also have the teamfight control to really deter something like a Kennen to dive into your squad. And then they go ahead and lock in the Tristana. So Tristana also a bit of a mobility carry. We'll see how well it actually does here. Has some potential to find that 2v2 kill in the Kalista Renata as well. However, we'll just have to see how it actually performs. And then the Trundle pick does end up coming through, offers a lot more of that early game potential to try and attack these lanes aggressively. I like that. And actually, we could just have the mid Tristana as well, which is pretty good. Of course, you have the range advantage and you have the all-in potential into the Sylas. So we'll actually have to see where they allocate the lanes. Currently, we have 4 teleports. Hysterics. I don't know if that's the move.
It is. It is. Tristana's mid. Well, hang on. Again, we don't know. But honestly, it has to be. How fun this comp's going to be to watch, because I feel like what we've got here is a snowball effect for both these teams, right? Both these comps want to get nitty-gritty, like they want to be skirmishing. And I just can't wait to watch this play out, because if any of these lanes take off, Nightstar on either side, it just feels like it's so hard to stop that with the tools of the kit. Like, what great comps to start us off, honestly. Sem9 and Frank Esports kind of both battling to get safety within playoffs, Sem9 especially. But they've just pulled out this fun-to-watch composition where everyone's going to be jumping in, and I'm all about it.
Yeah, definitely a lot of yakety sacks here coming in from Sem9, at least from their composition standpoint. We'll see if the summoners end up being quad teleport. That seems to be a little bit excessive, but you never know. Sem9 have been, you know, the musical chairs sort of, but it feels like their moves have been more intentional rather than the moves coming in from Impunity, where even we're confused on what they're trying to do. But for Sem9, it feels like they have figured out that, hey, we've got a lot of stuff going on, but we know why we're changing all these things around.
Yeah, look, they know why, but still, for us, I mean, we kind of always expect, like, okay, Caspian will go support, or Caspian will go the Nautilus, while a Shin will pull out something else. This time it feels like we're actually in role order for lane allocation, because you can see, I mean, Shadow is committing to the mid lane, so it will be a Tristana mid, a Shin with the Nico in the bottom lane, has built himself up with Doran's ring, so he'll be farming too, worth mentioning. So kind of excited to start this game off, because junglers will be on the opposite sides of the map. Set up here for Arashi to go top, and bot side here for Hollow when he has a Kalista Renata line.
Yeah, and for Frank Esports with the Trundle, Kalista and Renata combination, you really just want to hard slam this bottom lane. So we'll see how Sem9 set up the waves with this Nico, because of course you do have the ability to kind of shove this lane pretty hard if you want to, if you get enough points into your queue. After a certain point, you just kind of perma-shove the wave, and it's very hard to dive you at that point. But early on, definitely could get punished for your lane positioning.
Yeah, I mean, level 3, a big one, but you could also say that with the Kalista Renata lane, right? So, for a Shin, all about landing those Tangle Barbs and then getting yourself out the Shape Splitter third strike passive. Played a hell of a lot of Nico back in the day. It was pretty fun to play as a support, and actually probably after this game, tonight might involve another support game of Nico. But we're already seeing the bullying coming out of the lane. Hollow has made himself path directly to Gromp. Like, no wolves on the way. 2 camps done. This will be number 3. Beelined it down to this bottom side.
Yeah, and this pathing is just really get to level 3 as fast as possible and just be around bot lane as much as possible early on. And over in this top side, YSKM really utilizing that extra range and punishing here. As No Name, this was the first pick Jax. Definitely something I don't know if anyone has seen. Just go ahead, blinds pick a very strong counter pick champ. But now Arashi making his way top lane. This is very, very dangerous for YSKM.
Yeah, it is. I mean, for YSKM on this cannon, Obi can get out. Nightstar, you might have to help me out here to feed a little bit laggy as YSKM ends up flashing away. But Arashi with a good time to game.
Oh, Hollow into the mid lane.
Take.
Oh, well, all right. It was almost my time to shine, but you know the kill doesn't actually happen. So it was a good attempt coming in from Frankie. So at the very least, you get a good chunk of damage. Now, Hollow making his way towards this bottom lane, and he's all right. You're back.
I am.
Maybe.
I am.
Okay.
I'm indeed. No. We're Gucci now. We've fully fixed the issue. But coming back, I just come back to Frank Esports having some pretty big lane leads. Like mid's even, but look at bot. Even through jungle, it looks like on the camp first. So it feels like right now for Frank Esports, their bottom lane set up perfectly for them. And with you all in as well. And Shed just has to rocket jump out in fear of getting one shot by the Silas.
Yeah, and that's in part due to the gank that just happened. Hollow making his way over, burning a lot of health onto this Tristana. And as a result, that's going to force out the recall. Actually going to be double recalls coming in from both of the mid laners here. Of course, they have their teleports available, so they'll just go ahead, come straight back to lane. But the real big focal point is, again, that bottom lane. Down 10 CS here. We don't expect them to really come out of the gates flying with this Nico pick. As, again, when we look at Ashin and how he's done in the lane phase, hasn't done particular well. So when we look at our expectations, we kind of expect him, all right, we'll get some sort of wave clear bot laner that doesn't have to do a whole lot mechanically to get the job done. And that's what it seems to be here once again with this Nico pick. Just going ahead, hey, once I get enough points into my queue, I don't really need to do anything. Just keep on clearing the waves, and then eventually we'll get into sort of the shot calling factor where we expect Ashin to be that major factor for Sem9.
I'd be curious as to what he builds here on the Nico, though, because last time we saw Nico, a lot of Everfrost was coming through the meta at the time, especially when she was mid. So I'm kind of leaning on that a little bit here as YSKM. Great timing here. Looks himself up a good trade with No Name. Meanwhile, we go back to mid to Shadow, who's going to get ganked. And Abscond duck the ulti burned out. He flashes, but Pillar can interrupt him. He waits for it. Then he rocket jumps. It's like a Maelstrom in the top side. YSKM wants yet another solo kill, but No Name has Counter-Strike, and the burst comes through, but he's not level 6. So doesn't have the enhanced auto. And as W comes through, he doesn't leap strike into YSKM. He survives. It differs from there, and that's going to be a couple of summoners burned across the rift in these solo lanes for Sem9.
Yeah, and he's just really trying to force No Name out of the lane because of that level differential, and also just get free gold from his first strike as much as possible. And for Frank Esports, they do have first dibs onto this first dragon. Only Cloud Dragon. So, you know, the move speed will help Frank Esports, but for Sem9, they're not worried too much. It's all about getting to level 6 with this composition, with the Nico and that Wukong, and then perhaps find that big fight around Rift Herald or something where they can just nail that Wamba.
Feels like a Herald for both teams. Slicing Maelstrom as seen is already up and available. The cooldown will be refreshed by the time we get to the next Herald. Eminem, we'll see if he gets his 6 with carries as well. Hostile takeover feels like it's be pretty impactful too. So I'm excited for this Herald because that's where both these teams look to be thriving. As Hollow, even towards his top side of the map, will get himself the clear, perfectly timed towards the Herald spawning. And you even look at bot. I mean, the priority down there is already in the pudding. You can see a turret plating already taken. Like, Eminem and Carries are doing so well within the lane. And it feels like they'll be able to make the first move as we're 20 seconds away from that objection.
Yeah, and we can already see, like, for Sem9, they've already thrown Caspiel out roaming. And that's because, again, Ashin, now level 6. Very hard to dive a Nico at this point because of that ultimate and just having the Tangle Barbs as well. So a lot of CC coming in, very hard to force that play. And Caspiel, level 4, making the roam up. We'll look to see Frank Esports also start moving. However, because of Sem9's positioning, getting early river access, they do have ownership over these choke points. This could be difficult for Frank Esports to try and fight for.
Yeah, because their bottom lane didn't want to walk up. They backed and they're slow, and Herald just goes over. Arashi gonna get flashed on here with a good handshake, but Kerry doesn't have ulti, but the Pop Blossom coming through and stolen by Pretender will be enough to dismantle them. The Sem9 are first blooded by Frank, and that response was good, but it's still a Herald play achieved by Sem9.
Yeah, it's still a relatively free take coming in from Sem9, and that's going to help him out considerably. I'd like to see this get tossed for, of course, either the Jax to try and get him going in that 1v1, or for this mid lane Kusana.
Carry's going deep here. Oh, he's going to be face called though. The turnaround.
Okay.
Pop Blossoms uses defensive, but the handshake once again great. If Carey's had his hostile takeover, that feels like a very different situation.
Yeah, doesn't have the ultimate quite yet, Carries. Level 5, but still a level ahead of Caspiel. So doing well in that regard as we get to see the replay on this fight. It is just kind of Sem9 taking it because of the fact that Frank Esports are a little bit late to the party. They try and force to get level 6 onto Eminem, and their timing's just slightly off as a result. Whereas on the flip side, Sem9, they do lose a member, but again, it's going to allow them to try and get more gold funneled into No Name or Shidodo on this Tristana, and hopefully that's enough to catapult them or slingshot them into some sort of solo kill possibility.
Because they need themselves a bit of gold considering they're 2,000 behind. And with that first kill going over to the Trundle jungle and Hollow, but more importantly, the lane leads out of mid and bot. It feels like it's desperately needed. And when I speak about bot here, Nightstar, I mean, there's 2 plates already taken by Eminem. Doing so well here on the Kalista matchup, and Ashin has just kind of been playing keep away. As we even see Arashi spotted on the bottom side, but even without his support, Eminem's fine. We didn't get to see what happened bot. But a Kalista just walked away from a Wukong gank. Of course, he didn't have anything up, not even his ultimate, so you can understand how he did it.
Possible 3-man into this mid lane once more. Shidodo still has the jump, of course.
Still the timing. I need to correct myself from bottom lane. Of course, in the minimap, I don't know why it does it for observers, but it was a Shin turning into Wukong because Arashi is towards the top side. That was the one thing I always hated. Is like, as a spectator, why are we seeing what champion they are? We don't need to care about what champion they are. It's like, I don't want to guess from a spectator's point of view which one
just
is
like Diego.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. It's like, why did Katarina get a triple kill? She's on the enemy. Oh, you know.
Exactly.
It's always a wondrous. Pretender's stolen away the...
Oh, Arashi.
Yeah, he's not going to use it, though. He's not going to walk into position. I mean, Hollow's by himself. Surprising. Pretender had flash ulti and just didn't want to take it.
Yeah, I'm actually also surprised that Pretender doesn't make his way over to try and see if he could finish off Arashi in that instance. That's just how the cookie crumbles, I suppose. And Frank Esports, they're out to a 2K gold lead. It feels like, they're doing everything right. But again, this team doesn't necessarily just end the game straight up when you give them that 2K gold lead versus a team like J-Team, who very much will just go in on you and just sort of end the game by 15 minutes. Well, figuratively speaking. But Frank Esports, they're definitely a much more measured team, and they really like more of their 80-20, 90-10 sort of plays, rather than just going, hey, we have a 65-35, let's just try and change that into a 90-10, because if we win this fight, the game essentially turns into a 90-10.
At least it's snowballing. I mean, Pretender, by the way, just solo killed Shiadudu in the mid lane. So, with him dead, there's no Tristana on the map. Pretender's going to get a massive shove. Oh. They're all diving at Cannon top. Arashi almost dies. Caspiel is going to die. And No Name's next. YSKM. Oh my god, onto Arashi next. He gets him too. The Cannon top has just outplayed anyone. No Name jumps in and he dies too. YSKM, you are a god.
Let's just say he's really starting out his Week 4 MVP campaign out pretty darn well. As we get to see this mid lane solo kill, it's Pretender. I mean, you've got that AP scaling on that Tristana ultimate as well, so it does a lot of burst damage in that 1v1. And we can see they throw down the Rift Herald, get some gold into No Name, but unfortunately it's just not there. So all this gold is going into Arashi, and then you're trying to dive a Kennen, and if he gets a 3-man ult, it's really just dunzo from there, because that's just so much damage coming out from that Kennen. And yes, No Name gets this kill, but it comes at a cost. It's a triple kill for YSKM.
Oh, do it
they
again,
still want it.
He doesn't have ulti. He doesn't have ulti. He's got Protobelt available though, but needs to get out of this. Jumps in, tries to juke it out. Hollow's here to help, but Arashi
1v2.
flashes. The emote
Carries
goes up. You have to
Pretender.
do it after the 1v3 before. Let's see. As Carries and Pretender come through, I mean, this level 11 Tiles can steal a depth charge, but Caspiel's getting out of the way. Shiadudu moves in to threaten while in the bottom lane. Meanwhile, Ashin wants to take the 1v1 and gets himself a good pop blossom.
First damage,
but now Eminem has himself the one-on-one himself. Immortal Shield Bow, the Rend about to come through the stopwatch, doesn't save him. And Eminem gets a solo back in. Frank Esports now saying nothing to Sem9, who are getting dominated.
Yeah, it was a nice setup play coming in from Sem9 at the start to just, hey, YSKM doesn't have his ultimate. That cooldown isn't available. Let's go ahead and get a pick onto him. It's a well-executed play. Unfortunately, Ashin, this Nico pick, is very good at staying safe against the Kalista, but it's not a 1v1 champ. Kalista's still the much better 1v1 champ in that regard. And yes, you have a decent amount of burst damage, but if you don't 100-0 the Kalista, you're just not going to finish her off. She has the shield bow, she has the sustain, and she has DPS. So as long as Eminem realizes, hey, I just win the extended fight, well, the Nico just loses every single time.
I mean, had no mythic. Shin without a mythic versus a shield bow on Kalista. It was close, but you kind of feel like how it would go 9 times out of 10 anyway. So we look at the gold lead. It's 3,000 for Frank Esports. They got Double Dragon. And this Rift Herald that Hollow is yet to put down. After that 3v1 dive in the top side, I mean, I'm just convinced that Sem9 haven't got the ball rolling, but more importantly, haven't got as many options as you'd hope for. And we're just getting mythics across the board here. Moving into second items for Frank Esports. While for Sem9, they're still waiting for people like No Name. Still waiting for a Shin to get there as they lose yet another, well, the first turret actually, in the game, but another piece of gold on the map taken down. And yeah, good handshake of the fake Nico, but Frank Esports are just going to make the play happen. It hits. No one's in range though. Not sure about the ulti from Carries.
Well, it was optimistic at best. However, it does get him off of that tower. And with the second Herald, they are going to be able to break that tier 2 in that bottom lane. That offers them good lane to once again focus more around this dragon. Of course, with Kalista, you're going to be very focused around these objectives, and that's one of the big snowball conditions. So for the side of Sem9, really it's just trying to find this next dragon fight. You have the Wombo potential again. However, you know, Ashen being so far behind still doesn't have the mythic completed. I'm surprised he doesn't have the mythic completed even at this point. But without it, like, this is such a hard fight to win if you don't have that.
And they still want to take the fight. This is so ambitious.
Oh,
Pop Blossom comes through
from behind.
onto Hollow though, but look, one member already dead. The stolen Pop Blossom gets Arashi, and Hollow with the bailout is just whacking down. As No Name joins in, getting out alive is going to be a different thing. As Ren's going to come through and stack. Eminem plays it perfect while YS Cam is looking for more blood. Electrocuted to death. It's Frank Esports with 12 kills and a dominating outplay in this game that has just made them look so good.
Yeah, Hysterics, there was really just no gas to that play coming in from Sem9. They understood, hey, we want to contest this dragon. It would be third dragon for the side of Frank Esports, but they didn't really account for should we be, because they just didn't have the power spikes to actually do so. Hollow, so tanky on this Trundle at this stage in the game, throws down the ultimate, sealed resistances, teleport comes in from YSKM on the backside. This backline is just so frail. Again, Ashen just doesn't have the oomph to actually burst anyone out. Now has the Ludens, but it's just too little too late. At this point in the game, Frank Esports, they've got enough level lead under their belt that that extra magic resistance starts churning through, and you're not going to get bursted out, especially by Ludens, which it just feels bad for the side of Sem9 right now.
Needed damage. As Shin again is going to be pillared. Carry's running into him confidently. I mean, Arashi just wants the ward, but to take that, Hollow pushes him out a little bit further. And I feel like, you know, we go back to the draft and we look at what Sem9 brought out this game. Triple topside ban against YSKM. But then he just picks Kennen and has been absolutely fine. Like, I don't know, the banning out topside here against Frank Esports didn't work out. They gave away Kalista Renata, which no region at the moment, even though Kalista has seen to fall, is willing to give away this specific duo. It's either Kalista or Renata singular, never together. And that's kind of only the start of the problems here for Sem9 as they give up so much. Well, No Name in the top side, he's going to pop the ulti, but now Frank Esports had the backup coming through. Slicing Maelstrom buys him time as with Pretender in, stealing the depth charge. In the air he'll go, Arashi starts spinning, but YSKM is playing with the rest of his food, and Pretender will clean this up. One goes down, Arashi getting the trade, but look, on the other side of the map, in mid lane perhaps, Eminem just picked up a double, and Pretender is having the time of his life with a Shin dying yet again. I can't watch this anymore. Sem9 are getting cut open, and the blood is flooding the stage.
At the very least, Hysterics, they didn't showcase that mid-fight because it was just a straight-up disaster for the side of Sem9. It was a 3v3, and they got absolutely wiped. Pretender might find one more kill. However, the Warrior Trickster will be enough to get him out. And yeah, Sem9 is just, everything's falling apart. They didn't have a lane to really play through. It was supposed to be this Jax, right? Because you invested so much draft resources here. But, ooh, nice little ultimate coming in, but it was just too telegraphed, right? So the side of Sem9, they try and just immediately turn for the play, and they just don't have enough damage because all of the burst damage is supposed to be from this Nico to get them low enough for then the Tristana to hop in and set up those resets, and it's just not even close to happening so far.
So clean from Eminem. That kind of way from Dredgeline, like, I don't know. I don't blame Sem9 for going all in on this Kalista, who kind of janky over the wall, past the wall, behind the wall. Like, what do you do at this point when you have a Nico on the team? And, you know, Nightstar, the one thing I know about Nico is when you fall behind as a Nico, you are useless. Like, you don't do any damage. Your E is barely a stun, which if anyone builds tenacity, you know, by the way, even though they doted this game, also just feels worse. And you kind of look at it like, well, what does it do? Because at this point, Sem9 with such limited damage, now have to face up against a team that has full Baron vision control, have Midway pushed out, and don't have anything else running for them on the map. I mean, good luck checking this. I just don't think they can.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. They throw down the blue trinket so they know, but YSCam, perfect angle here.
Oh my god, almost solo killing the mid laner of Sem9. A good Renata ulti again as stun goes down.
He does! That's a solo
burn. Kill! The ult, he's now got it as Slicing Mouse gets the double stun yet again! YSKM is on a different level. Frank Esports top laner has taken them all the way to playoffs, I'll tell you now. The 7-3-2 yet again, showcasing why he was the MVP of last week.
No Name trying to do work on the side, has the completed hull breaker, but it's just not enough, especially against Baron buff. Frank Esports, they can just look to easily try and end things out from here. We'll see if they get an inhib off of this initial push. As Hollow, he will be able to get the inhib tower, but there's a long teleport coming in. That's Ashen. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
He's trying.
But Eminem still without summoners. I don't favor it, and now he's out. No Name's like, I'm helping, but how can he help this situation? And then meanwhile, YSCam pressing two buttons, and Jadudu's almost dead. His ult's not available, but he's just pressing Q. I mean, this cannon is hitting harder than a Nidalee with 3 items. And the Fates call set up the handshake. Sem9, this is going to be their deathbed. It's not going to be the fastest game of the split here, Nightstar, but it's damn well close against what is one of our bottom tier teams, and reminded as such as Frank Esports continue to be impressive. This might be their split with the dominance they've had against Sem9. They're on their last defense. Franks want to end it here as Eminem is hopping around without mana, doesn't care with the bailout. Everyone targeting him, but he's healing up. Down to bailout mode, needs the Ren. He revives! And No Name, even though he gets a kill in the end, look at what they burnt. YSCam under the turret yet again. And Hollow even pillars him. I love the trash talking thrown on the rift in front of our eyes from Frank Esports. They've got the vibe, they've got the skills, and this is a team that I'm so excited to continue watching in the second round robin of the PCS Summit.
24-minute game here, and Frank Esports speed run towards the Nexus. It is a very, very dominating win, and YSCam yet again flashing his absolute brilliance in this game, showcasing why he was MVP last week, and already starting his campaign to a week 4 MVP. Very, very strong.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. Strong is, I think, an understatement for that Frank Esports game. Like the drafting was, you know, what happens when you target on blue side, by the way. You target top lane with triple ban. And you're like, okay, we're going to Jack's first pick. Look at what they gave away, Nightstar. We got a strong bottom lane. We got Kalista Renata, which again, no region is willing to give over. And then even for the Wukong pick, which has fallen off, I feel, in 12-12 and especially 12-13. And then we go down the rabbit hole, like Silas is first pick worthy in a lot of these drafts these days. Just 3 really strong first picks here for Frank Esports. And it was even like the Cannon third, right? It wasn't even the Silas, so...
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like Frank Esports got away with murder quite a bit, and it's all because this man in the top lane exists, and they're so threatened by him.
Yeah, when the draft ends up getting completely changed like that, it really leaves a lot of power picks left on the table, as we just saw. Like, the Kalista Renata just goes into the hands of Frank Esports for free. Because the side of Sem9, they want to deny away that Jax pick. However, they don't pair anything up with the Jax. They don't give it any sort of early game support. The Wukong, you can sort of make a couple plays at level 4, but for the most part, you're just power farming level 6, and you just can't give YSKM that much free time to figure out how to bully that other top laner. Whereas on the flip side, like, you look at their top jungle duo, they have a Trundle. So you always have to be a little bit careful when trying to attack a lane, because if Trundle's there, he immediately turns it on its head very, very easily.
Does a lot against that comp too. Like, Pillar has so much value. And I feel like, again, we can talk all day about the smart drafting of Frank Esports and what Sem9 kind of put themselves into in this small little pocket window, but for Frank Esports, from start to finish. That gameplay was beautiful. And the one attempted move for Sem9 to get something on the map with that Wukong you were talking about was the top lane dive with Caspiel. 1v3 slicing Maelstrom, turned it on its head. And all I can say is that, like, that one avenue, that one moment where you say, okay, well, maybe Sem9 can trade, it's denied like that, and gold jumps another couple of thousand in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, and that was like really their one big play to try and swing any lane into their favor. If they find that kill, deny a bunch of gold away from the Kennen pick. Maybe he doesn't have those big pop-off team fights coming in from the flank angle and being able to just like one-shot everyone in the back line. Maybe that doesn't happen. Or maybe the Hullbreaker comes on a little bit earlier for the Jax. But, I mean, we can theorize all we want. The reality of the situation was they just 1v3 inted.
Yep. Yes, they did. The damage, not surprising, from YSKM in the top side. Like, oh, damn. Oh, damn. Like, you know, if he had another 6,000 or so, it'd be more than probably the whole team of Sem9. So, you know who's getting MVP Night Star? We don't even need the next screen, dude. We don't need it. We don't need it. YSKM yet again. What more are we going to see? And here it comes. He was number 1 in MVPs before this game. Number 1 with 4 MVPs. He now has 5 MVPs and has 2 more than anyone else in the league. Not surprising when you see how much he did just within that game. And I don't even think that was like the game where he set up to succeed, but he made it work on this Kennen.
Man, I really, really need a YSKM jersey right now because he's had 5 out of 6 MVPs for his squad. They've only had 6 wins. This is their 6th win here. And he's had 5 MVPs. That is ridiculous. He is clearly the win condition for this squad. And if he ever gets ahead, like, look out at PCS because he is definitely coming for every single top lane.
It's crazy to me, like, you know, in LDL 2021 summer, LDL 22 spring, the B League of LPL, YSKM was in IG Young, and IG Young had this reputation in the LDL of, like, raising really good talent. And the people he played with, like Naney, who's on the back of IG now, XZY, who's, you know, strong mid laner in LDL, Long, who's really good on top esports challenger, Xiaoyu Eji, also there too. All these growing names, he played alongside them, and it's no wonder that he was continued playing around people that have, you know, gotten promoted into the main league. So big, YSKM. This is such a great split for him, and for Frank Esports as well. Win number 6. That'll move them up to number 4th here. But coming up next, we're going to see if PSG can continue their run against Doish team in the PCS Summer for your Magical Friday night.